and welcome in to another episode of Offensively Accurate, hosted by yours truly, Atlas Thugs, aka White Boy D Voice, whatever other moniker I might have had, username, tag, like it even matters. What is up, everybody? It's been a minute since I've done a back-to-back. I tried to do in the Daily Show a while ago, but my work schedule was so ridiculous. But I'm going to try to do a lot more work from here moving forward. You probably saw the thumbnail as well, but different than what it has been in the past. I'm going to try to play around with a little bit of things to make myself a bit more discoverable. I ended up seeing the previous thumbnail I've used for every single one of my live streams on the TV the other day, and it looked awful. I felt ashamed, to be honest with you. It just wasn't up to par for what I wanted to put out, especially because I've been pretty good at making thumbnails previously. I just kind of am low effort and lazy when it comes to the other ones, all the ones for the live streams, that is. So, to get this started though, you probably read the title, Trying to Jail Jeff Younger. If you're not familiar with Jeff Younger, he's someone who I have been following in this case, or not the case, but I've been following him for the past couple of years now, ever since he made an appearance on Timcast IRL and essentially laid out his story. He's been on Timcast IRL, I think, a couple of times, maybe only two. Both of those times he was there to lay out his story as well as his positions when it comes to the family court issue and the solutions that he sees with that. And the reason for that being so, and why he's so driven to do these things, is because of the actual case that is involving his own son, which in short is essentially his ex-wife is trying to trans his son, and he's doing everything that he possibly can to avoid it. It's a very, very sad and unfortunate story, and it has a huge turn, even beyond this. Coming out today, I think it was today or either earlier yesterday, that now they are filing to jail him for the actions of third parties. Now we're going to get into that a little bit. We're going to discuss, some of these shocking turns that happened in Jeff Younger's case, but as well, that's not all. We're going to also explore this ridiculous case of an Israeli diplomat's son who received no time after running and hitting a police officer, running him over, I should say. And I think the absurdity of that situation highlights once again this odd nature of how Israel and the people are treated here in America. Just another one that kind of piques your interest. And again, it's kind of a grain of sand, but it adds up into a dune over and over and over and over and over again. The similarities and consistency with the way this is kind of treated. And then also connected to Israel, we have one of the most insane things I've ever seen. It's going massively underreported. And really, maybe not even underreported, but also because it's being overshadowed by what's going on in Venezuela. And if you're not familiar with what's going on in Venezuela, I don't even know if you can call it a revolution, honestly. They're amidst an insanely contested election. I believe the incumbent was Nicolas Maduro, who was seen with this photo that showed that he was clearly losing the election. People lost their minds. If anything, it is a foreshadowing of what may possibly happen and come to the United States. Now, obviously, it won't take the same exact form. There's huge differences between Venezuela and the United States, but it's kind of a shocking sight to see for something that we might be on the precipice of. And with that, it was essentially this hugely contested election. Now you have military kind of separating between choosing which faction they're going to support. All in all, it seems to be a bit more peaceful than what you would expect, that you would imagine here in the States. But all in all, there's still people being shot and harmed. So it's not a good situation. But in regards to what's going on in Israel, it's one of these protests where I can't even believe. I had to read multiple times to be like, is this real? Like, there's no way this is real. I went to multiple accounts and I'm like, there's no way this is real. And lo and behold, no, actually it is real. And especially some of it coming from the members of their government. I just it's a doozy, and we're going to get into it. So with that being said, subscribe on YouTube, follow me on X, follow on TikTok, follow on Spotify, share the show if you enjoy it, or even if you want to share it to somebody because you dislike my opinions. I'll take either or. So we're going to bring it here. We're going to start with the Jeff Younger story here. Let me go ahead and move it over to the desktop here. Now you can see this here. It is a tweet from Jeff Younger at Jeff Younger Show. He says, the latest insanity in my court case to save my son from transgender chemical castration. They want to jail me for the actions of third parties. How can I face this much opposition just to raise a boy as a boy? Now, essentially, they're trying to imprison Jeff and or fine him. I think it's both for another legal expert who recorded a screen recording of a court proceeding. So there's multiple arguments here, and we'll break it down. But the most damning part of the article, or one of the more damning parts of the article, was, and I have a little screenshot here. I can actually go ahead and bring it, pull it over here, put it on the display. Let me go ahead and make this big. Right here, if you can see it on screen. Younger strongly suspects, but cannot prove without discovery, that the reason his ex-wife conceals the truth about treating physician is because pediatrician Anne Georgolis, I think is how you pronounce that, herself is the treating physician. Now I'll put a stop there if I read that last sentence. They have been amidst this discovery, and I believe a portion of this is the fact that they haven't been able to get an identification of a pediatrician who's seen his son. And the fear is that the pediatrician that's been treating his son is actually the ex-wife. So obviously, conflict of interest there. And then the last sentence there essentially just writes out, James Younger also, or Jeff Younger, forgive me, he also suspects that she's already put him on puberty blockers, meaning the son. And another portion of this too was the fact that there was a ransomware attack that just magically out of nowhere, it just disappeared Jeff's filing of a motion. So we're gonna go to the article actually. And one of these things I'm gonna take a deep dive on this article actually. It's one, it's just one that blows me away, and especially for Jeff Younger, somebody who I really appreciate the majority of everything he says. It's hard to find anything I honestly disagree with Jeff on. So I want to give him the spotlight here for the opening section of this, make this a little bit bigger to read. But you can see it's the article by Alex Baker. I don't know what website I'm on pmjmp.org. Jail time for Jeff Younger. It says the lying lesbian lawyer Elena Chazan files a motion after leaked video and documents go viral. Now seeks to criminally prosecute Younger because Alexander Baker spoke the truth. Now, obviously, this is an insane course of action here. You have someone who's been fighting tooth and nail in every avenue they possibly can, not only just in California, but in Texas beforehand, before the wife took off with the child, and now is facing jail time for simply doing everything he can to stop the transing of his own son. Now, the petitioners, and Gorgolos, I believe that is the ex-wife there, and then the attorney is on the right-hand side, Elena Chazan. But some of these just more egregious things here. But we'll go to the screen recording and what they're deeming to be the action that got him in trouble, or what they're deeming is a jailable offense. And so you can see here, Jeff Younger will now be criminally punished because legal expert Alexander C. Baker reported on the blatantly illegal nature of the top secret Star Chamber proceedings now unfolding in the LA Superior Court. If you're not familiar with Star Chamber, it essentially is like a loose term to refer to like a private court proceeding, which is, obviously shady. If you were to have your court be done in private, obviously, how would you be able to verify a lot more of the, if someone's rights were actually being upheld or if they're being violated? And it included the release of numerous court documents and an audio-video recording of a June 5th, 2024 trial-setting hearing. So they're saying by recording and publishing, Baker acted in defiance of Judge Michelle Casati's unconstitutional Star Chamber order, deeming the entire case sealed and arguably in defiance of Rule 1.105 and the general order of the LA court prohibiting cameras in the courtroom. Now, Baker says he doesn't believe the general order applies to the screen capturing to the remote hearing, but even if it does, in Baker's expert legal opinion, these rules and orders are a blatantly unconstitutional and illegal effort to conceal the truth about the horror that is gender-affirming care. So you can see here by the act of recording what occurred in the court proceeding is the grounds in which they are petitioning that Jeff Younger, a third party to this, be jailed. Which doesn't make much sense at all, right? Obviously, now you're trying to jail Jeff Younger for an action that a third-party individual took. And it just gets a little bit worse from there. Continues on. Chazan and her client, Anne Gorgolas, I think that's how you pronounce it, and Lord forgive me if I'm wrong, are so worried over the truth being told that on July 25th, 2024, is not too long ago, they brought this motion against Jeff Younger seeking to arrest him and for monetary sanctions and for any other relief the court finds appropriate. So essentially open season on Jeff Younger. The hearing of Chazan's attempted criminal prosecution of Younger is now set for the 2nd of August in 2024. We will analyze Chazan's document below and also document the lies upon which Gorgolas' case is founded. First, though, let's have a sneak peek, and this is one of these clips here, and this is what the clip that he ended up taking that's still uploaded and on the internet. Now, I won't play that because it continues and it explains it a bit better in the article. Now, Younger filed a motion for trial continuance, that's explained in a previous article, no part of proper trial procedure is being followed. In particular, before a fair trial begins, Jeff Younger has a guaranteed right to take depositions of key witnesses, to obtain the medical records supporting Gorgolis's contentions, or obtain admissions that there are no such records, and to also obtain her financial information. What's more, I'm just reading this article essentially word for word, really. What is more is under California law, Jeff Younger has a guarantee of an attorney fee award in his favor so as to achieve parity in the party's ability to afford the cost of litigation. Younger is currently unemployed, while Ann Gorgolis is a pediatrician, and so you can see there why the bias and conflict of interest, if I wasn't too forthcoming with that. The ex-wife in this scenario is a pediatrician. But to continue, and presumably makes over $200K a year. Perhaps most importantly of all, Younger has a right to a public trial, as opposed to the top secret medieval Star Chamber proceeding going on now. Even the Wikipedia article, Jeff Younger Custody Battle, makes it appear as though the case is long over. Because none of the elements of a fair trial are present, Younger was forced to file an ex parte motion to continue trial, set for hearing on Monday, July 22nd. Younger sought a 1-year postponement, asking the court to reset the trial for August of next year. However, LA Superior Court was allegedly subjected to a devastating ransomware attack, and they closed down that day. The judge assistant, Mary Arnold, later claimed that the court had no record of the filing. Eventually, through highly unusual email chains with Judicial Assistant Arnold, Younger's motion to continue trial was set for Friday, July 26th. All parties were ordered to appear in person and to bring with them paper copies of all pleadings in the case. Obviously, I don't think anyone is buying the fact that there was just this random devastating ransomware attack and one of the items went missing. Is at the long end of a bunch of these odd occurrences relating to the Jeff Younger case. When I saw that, it was almost immediate that they are now going out of bounds to do fourth wall ways of finding out how they can just destroy Jeff Younger's chance to fight in court. It's honestly insane. And this is also coming from, we're past the point in which he was being barred from being able to testify on his son's behalf. Just a lot of insanity going on, and it's very far from being considered a fair case. Now, the article continues, this is beyond highly unusual. It is unprecedented, at least in this author's considerable experience. Apparently, the Superior Court is now claiming to have lost the case file in the Gorgolis versus Younger as a result of the ransomware attack. This, after first intentionally deleting the public record of the entire file on May 30th. Alana Chazan, who is the attorney fighting against Jeff Younger, is a family law attorney who says she focuses on the needs of LGBTQ families in LA. Chazan's newly merged firm is All Family Legal. She represents Gorgolis since the case was moved from Texas to LA. So I didn't even realize that. So she followed her from Texas to LA. I'm sure that's a possible thing, to be honest. Faced with Jeff Younger's motion for the continuance of what would be an illegal show trial, Chazan, and this article is also written by Alex Baker, so it is definitely clearly biased towards in Jeff Younger's favor. Since Chazan and Gorgolis seek criminal prosecution and arrest, we feel this latest action is better known as a request to jail Jeff. Now set for hearing, illegally as it turns out, on Friday, August 2nd, 2024, the other orders Chazan seeks against Younger are the following, and with the author comments interspersed. So you can see there's multiple criminal penalties being sought now against Jeff Younger related to the release of that court proceeding that was done again by a third party, not Jeff Younger. So it says, number one, all videos of hearings from this case that have been posted by the respondent, which would be Jeff, and or one of his agents, which was refers to Alexander Baker, be immediately removed from the internet. Baker states unequivocally that he acted alone in recording and posting of the video of the top secret June 5th, 2024 hearing. Although Baker has worked professionally in the Younger case, when it comes to recording and publishing, Baker is most certainly not Jeff Younger's agent in that context. Baker, Younger, and the attorney, Tracy Henderson, all confirm that Baker acted alone. Jeff Younger has no ability to remove the video from the internet, even if Chazan somehow succeeds getting a judge to order a takedown. So imagine that. They turn around and they go, okay, they get this through, and say it's just item one. They force item one through. So now they're forcing the burden on Jeff to get the video removed when he's not in possession of it and wasn't the person who posted it. So this is something I would imagine and hope that on the grounds of what they're saying here, by the fact that they would consider it a third party and not as an agent of Jeff's, they would just strike this down. But again, I have very little faith in what's going on. The judges in this case seem to be aggressively biased against him. Now, criminal penalties that are sought, which is on item 2. All pleadings from this case that have been posted by Jeff and or one of his agents be immediately removed from the internet. So court documents are in the public domain and in the public interest by definition. There is one reason and one reason only why these woke judges and trans activists have resurrected the medieval Star Chamber against Younger. They seek to cover up evidence of their participation in the crime against humanity. Now, under the Nuremberg Code and the legal precedent established in the USA versus Carl Brandt case, the doctor's trial, gender-affirming care is non-consensual sterilization of children. It is a felony crime. It is worth mentioning that the modern U.S. doctrine of judicial immunity comes from the case Stump versus Sparkman, in which Indiana judge Harold D. Stump authorized the forced sterilization of an unwitting teenage girl. Now they move on to the third item, which is that they're moving that the attorney for Jeff, the one who also recorded the proceeding, is barred from all LA Superior Courts for any matter in which he is not a party, including appearing via Court Connect. And then the simple author comment here is the trans activist's fear of the truth is on full display, right? So doing what they can to now get him out and not be involved. Now it goes on, there's item 4 here, which is the monetary aspect, right? So the monetary aspect, I won't read all the extra code here. Now they're seeking about $1,500 in damages, which again is kind of like a low number to put out if you're really concerned about that much private information coming out, just because it doesn't match the crime in which they are saying it is. But the author goes on to say that the recording and publishing was done with good cause and substantial justification. And understandably so, if they find themselves in this position in which they feel that they are being violated of their rights, why would you not do whatever you could to record as much evidence as possible? That simply makes sense. Now it also goes on to the next item, to arrest him. Arrest Jeff Younger pursuant to the codes 166 and all these different random ones. So 3 different reasons why they should. Now, this first code basically says that a judge can find you in contempt and order you to appear in court if you're disobedient to your overlords, is what it says. But it says that only applies to lawful orders, in which they are arguing in the Younger case that the court is so far out of bounds and they're acting so illegally that it's almost beyond belief to actually adhere to such a request. The second penal code describes several circumstances under which a person can be charged, tried, and convicted of criminal contempt. And then they're asking the judge to enforce and prosecute under these subsections here, which is willful disobedience and resistance willfully offered by a person. So essentially, all of this being done in the name of someone's resistance to the court orders. Now, this article is really good and goes on to explain a good bit more of the argument of why they did what they did. But in reality, it's very exemplary of how broken not only just everything is at the top in terms of federally and nationally, but also at some of these smaller levels. And I think that would be quite obvious, especially given the fact that this is happening in California. But I think the way that this case is played out from the beginning to end, and now I think we're in the second year of this kind of going on, explicitly, I think shows the fact that judges are able to bend things in ways that they shouldn't, and there's really no checks and balances around it. This applies not only just in this case, but I think when you look at a lot of what's happening regarding the Trump cases as well, especially I think it was like Judge Merchan. Judge Merchan was somebody who was like had publicly donated to the opposition party, which would have been Joe Biden. And for some reason, that wasn't good enough to recuse him off the case. Like that wasn't a good enough reason to show that there would be bias and that there would maybe possibly be a better judge to handle the case. And so there's many more instances that follow that same trend line. But in regards to it happening to a man's son, I really don't know what Jeff is supposed to do after this, right? So let's say it goes to the worst of the worst, and say they jail him, then they seal the case and they call it a done deal, and they just say, hey, Jeff's no longer allowed to be in his child's life. because they think he's a danger to his health care, in which they're deeming just the trans gender affirming stuff. Well, then I think that's a man who has run out of all of his options. He's exhausted literally everything that he can in terms of the legal way of doing something without being outside the confines of the law. And now you push someone to a point in which you are now messing with their son's life in something that is so overtly something that you and I and most of the audience, I would imagine, can see as being not only just demonic and satanic, but also, woke at a minimum, and doing something so unnatural and so harmful to someone's son. And then the court system is making sure that it happens no matter what defense you try to put out there. Well, then what options do you imagine this man has? And so what I mean by that is it's going to push itself into illegal territory where do you seriously expect a man to accept that his son is trans, especially when the view and the argument from Jeff is that he's definitely not wanting this and that it's being driven by the mother, the ex-wife. It is the definition of hoisting the black flag. And this is something that I've talked about with Donnie Brooke a few times when Donnie Brooke was co-hosting a lot more regularly. We all feel the same on this. This would be where I draw a line no matter at all. Like I am just, if I exhausted and I ran through the exact gauntlet that Jeff Younger was forced to go through in the specific nature of I have nothing left and it's been so obviously and overtly biased, you're forcing me to do something outside the confines of the law, and I'm okay with that because you're not being lawful. You're upholding just disgusting law that's not informed by morality that I recognize. And I'm thankful for one thing, and it's not even something to even really be thankful for. I guess it's the fact that we're not seeing this more often, and maybe it's possibly that it is happening a lot more often, and it's just not nearly as notable because it's not coming from someone who's nearly as popular, I guess, as someone like Jeff Younger. But if this were to happen at a much larger scale, you would have some factions rising up who would do a bit more than your average Vitaly pedo hunter kind of stuff. And that's just to say precautionary is something like, this isn't something that should continue whatsoever. And my heart goes out to Jeff for having to deal with this. And they lay out a lot more arguments here. I'm only about halfway through this article. But the one specific one also that I showed the screenshot of earlier is the fact that the James has a treating physician lie, which if you see on screen, which is Jeff believes that this entire time where they've been getting like medical records from with redacted, or I guess the lack of medical records, while also being told that he is seeing these people and that he is going through gender affirming care and these pediatricians are saying these things. His fear is that it's actually the wife signing in her name, using her authority as a pediatrician to force these things through. Now, the jail time threatening aspect is absurd. I hope that just gets struck down or just doesn't go through. However, it happens to just not be a real thing. And this is someone who's made repeated appeals to people like Elon Musk in light of the recent, laws regarding all of the gender affirming care. And so it's a story that you should definitely follow. I'm not sure if he's still actively accepting donations in regards to the court funding, but you can see if it's ongoing, and I can't imagine what the court costs have been being built up to, especially with the lawyer costs and everything he's got to put in to make sure that he can continue to fight to get his son to not be made a woman or made a girl. It's just a tough read, but it's somebody who I will always give a spotlight to, especially regarding the fact that they are so politically, I guess, sound or I guess and witty. But it's just one that it's really engrossed me, particularly because it seems like not too many people have been wanting or willing to take it on. Now I know Tim Pool has had him on, but even at that, it's only been a couple sparing appearances. Maybe it's because of the court case that Jeff's not making a bit more appearances. I think what would do him a lot of wonders would be, if he did continue to do on this podcast tour, because podcast tour, I guess I should say, particularly because I find that these avenues would reach the right audiences and get people more aware of what's going on. So maybe this is a cry from somebody who's got not that many subscribers, for somebody bigger than me to help take on Jeff Younger and put the spotlight on the story, because I think it's very, very, very important. And I think it shows a light on what is a father to do if you take away every single one of his legal options and you force him into a corner, then you're stuck with the argument of should that man just accept the fate of his son being dictated by a court and his ex-wife? I don't think you're going to find many men, nor the majority of men, who answer, well, I guess I would just take that. I think it would be quite the opposite. And I think that lines up to have some very, very tumultuous periods of time. Um, Seemingly now, though, the way that the trans movement and the way that the culture is being kind of shifted right now, it seems the pendulum's already beginning to swing a bit back. So maybe this worry is becoming less and less prominent. But again, who's to say that one state doesn't run rampant and there still are people who are affected in this exact same way, just victim of the fact of where they live is a bit more woke than maybe the rest of the country. So, with that being said, though, forgive me. I'm going to go ahead and move on to a couple other topics I did have available. So let me go ahead and switch the camera back. There's a couple crazier stuff that I saw about World War II and regarding Zuby, but I'll save that towards the end. We're gonna just go keep hitting some of these stories that really kind of bothered me. Now we'll go to this one here. This is insane. To be quite honest with you, this is a son of an Israeli diplomat. Actually, this is the Miami Herald's just a broken website. Let me go to this actual other article here. This is from AF Post. So we'll just go to this one first. I'll go to the article. Son of Israeli diplomat receives no jail time and is allowed to flee to Israel after running over a police officer in Florida. When I first saw this, obviously, it kind of bothered me a little bit because I'm somebody who's been victim of just some ridiculous and egregious over administrating of law when it comes to policing, just kind of just some ridiculous instances. And then to see, of course, the ethnicity match up also with the fact that, oh, now he's allowed to leave, no jail time, and he ran over a police officer. But the story doesn't just stop there. It wasn't just like this weird instance and, oh, maybe he was just a good kid. No, you have to read this to believe it. Now, forgive me because this is awful. This ad blocker needs to go away. I need to make this a bit smaller. Here we go. Okay. So Israeli teen, man, I can't make that put on screen whatsoever. Oh my gosh. This is a massive ad. Well, now I can get rid of this. Either way, go ahead and just move myself and make it easier and avoid worrying about that. Israeli teen whose motorcycle struck Sunny Isle cop gets no jail time, headed to Israel, of course. The drawn-out saga of an Israeli consular's son charged with driving his motorcycle into a police officer neared conclusion Wednesday when a judge was informed the 19-year-old completed terms of a plea deal with the state and was leaving for Israel later that evening. Just insane. And I'm saying that also from somebody from the perspective of someone whose brother is currently dealing with an issue with the state as well. And it's kind of been eye-opening to see how all of these little kind of just differences that can change from, well, if you did this and you did this, well, then this would be a 90-year sentence. But if you did this and did this, it'd be eight months. And it's like, wait, what? Those are like the same exact charges, and not to be specific. But the article continues. It says, late last month, after writing a letter to injured Sunny Isle Beach police officer Ruben Zamora that was filled with apologies and lessons learned, Avraham Gil told the court that after a significant wake-up call, he decided to actively serve in Israel's military. I mean, I don't know. I mean, honestly, that might be possibly a good idea. Like, what if you get to add into plea deals the things maybe it's like 5 years and younger, 5 years and lower, that are like mandatory minimum kind of offenses. Maybe that could be a possibility for Americans to take that option. Maybe go to some kind of rigorous aspect of it and then be pulled up into the military. But either way, it's like, oh, you're going to go serve in the IDF? We're not going to charge you for nothing, man. What? Like, how does that make sense? It just doesn't. It's just odd. It's just weird. But it goes on. The state then agreed to an unusually lean punishment. No prison time if Gil attended traffic school, completed 100 hours of community service, agreed not to drive. I mean, yeah, just don't drive, buddy. I got it. Like, okay, yeah, we're going to take his word for it, man. And donated $500 to this trauma center at Jackson Memorial Hospital. After learning he'd completed these requirements, the Miami-Dade Circuit Court judge sent him on his way. His attorney told the judge that the family's visa was set to expire by the end of the month and that they were heading back to Israel after the hearing. Oh, you're not going to be here long? Man, I guess the laws don't apply to you, man. Are you joking? Can you imagine, like, if I would run into a cop, and right now in Ohio, I run over a cop, I'm going to jail, no questions asked. So what is the difference here? Is it because he's Israeli? Is that why? That's the first thing that sticks out to me. Or is it because he's the son of an Israeli diplomat? Maybe that's more the leading argument. It's because he's the son of someone who's pretty influential. Like, don't piss these people off. Really? And again, here's another example of, and it's not even, people say 2 tiers of justice system, bro. The thing's got like 14 tiers. If you're black, it's this. If you're white, it's this. If you're white and rich, it's this. If you're black and rich, it's this. If you're Jewish and this, it's rich. It's like there's all these different tiers, and it'll be in. But the lowest on the totem pole is just being a regular white dude, and it's like, bro, dude, you're gonna get no matter what. So it continues that Gil and his father, the Israeli consulate consul for administration in Miami, quickly left the courtroom without comment. So obviously taking advantage of the fact that they got off like that. But according to police, it was late in the afternoon, and I'm not going to give you the exact details, but the officer claimed he noticed him riding in 2018 black Suzuki, and he was going in and out of traffic, and the cop signaled and yelled for him to pull over. So the teen ignored the orders, struck the officer, and the officer somehow managed to pull the teen to the ground. The officer's leg was injured, and the boy was taken into custody. So the officer was harmed, but was not killed. So that is a good thing. And then he was initially charged with battery and resisting an officer. Now, somehow, these all get walked down because you just go, hey, I'm going to go serve in the IDF. And they're like, dude, you can do whatever you want, man. Those charges were dropped. The charge of aggravated assault on a law enforcement officer, which would carry a 3-year prison term, stuck. The court denied immunity claims by Gil's attorney, and despite additional claims that the teen's arrest was mishandled, Gil reached a deal with state prosecutors, completed his requirements, and avoided jail time. Wild. Neither the police nor the cop who was ran over would comment, which I find extremely odd. Normally, most cops, especially if an incident like that happened, you would imagine he would be upset with the court, because this is the reason why these things happen to officers, because courts just let people off and don't actually give them punishment that would be befitting to the crime. But no comment? Really? It smells to me like somebody got paid off to keep their mouth shut. And what's insane too is this is the part that kind of takes off the story a bit, which is the fact that it turns out that it wasn't the first confrontation with the cops. A month earlier on New Year's Eve, he was stopped by a Miami Shores police officer, also for allegedly speeding and careening in and out of traffic. The officer said that he had a cover on his license plate that said, "Please chase." The officer eventually let him go after learning of the teen's father's job with the Israeli Consulate General's office in Miami. And no, this article is not written by Nick Fuentes. This is a copy and paste on MSN from Miami Herald. Even these people are running out the opaque nature of the fact that it's just like, oh, he works for the Israel, his dad works for who? Oh, dude, don't mess with them. Now, what he did say, though, was that he did write this letter to this cop, apologizing, and he said he regretted any harm he may have caused and was sorry for his poor judgment. That part may be true. He may actually feel that way. I'm not sure how much that may stick or how committed he would be to that feeling of being apologetic, given the fact that he wasn't really even punished or disciplined for what he did outside of some community service hours, which how does that even get applied if you end up going to Israel? Like, who's going to keep track of that? Probably nobody, and it's a dead end in the system. But he even writes, "Please know that I'm dedicated to making amends and moving forward in a positive direction." He said, "Please pray for me." Just one of those stories where it's super eye-grabbing, and obviously it's going to grab attention specifically regarding the fact of the ethnicity of the individual too. And obviously that's why it picked up my attention too, but more so because his dad was an ambassador for Israel. I think less so it's because, oh, he's Israeli, that's why. It's like, no. I think more specifically it was because his dad's got some sway, and his dad said, "You're not doing this to me." It seems to me and reads to me like the money maybe possibly exchanged hands. It just reeks of some kind of just injustice like that or corruption like that, particularly the fact that the cop who was ran over had no comment. I just, it's one of those things that's just like, that's insane. And the story is about 6 days old, at least that's what it says in the byline there. One of those stories that just is like, I really wonder, But to move on, make another segue here, we're going to continue down the path of things that are Israel related. And what I mean by that is if you read the title, it says Israel is writing for what? And it's something I couldn't even put in the title, couldn't even put in the description because it is so aggressively vile and disgusting. We're going to start here. The lead from Suleiman Ahmed on Twitter. We're going to go down the line on these. Breaking: many Palestinian hostages hospitalized with injuries due to torture and rape. This included severe injuries to the anus caused by soldiers using broomsticks and other foreign objects, resulting in tears to muscles and intestines. Ben-Gvir condemned the events, labeling the soldiers involved as heroes. The soldiers refused to comply with inquiries from the Israeli military police regarding the killings and rapes of hundreds of Palestinian detainees in the camp. Israelis are now protesting at the camp to prevent their arrest. Now, we don't really need to see any of these or listen to any of these, but you can see there's multiple protests going on, particularly in the nature of the fact that they are angry that the IDF is holding some of their own guilty for the acts of raping. They're now being deemed the right to rape protest. I kid you not. I was just as in shock. When I'm telling you, I had to read some of these things multiple times to be like, okay. And let me be honest, the name of the show is offensively accurate. I'm not going to hold back. And YouTube, I mean, whatever. I'm going to do my best not to break any rules. But this story is insane, and I think it's being overshadowed a lot by the stuff that's going on in Venezuela. The Venezuelan stuff's a bit more spicy, less toxic to bring up and talk about. But I'm not afraid to talk about this stuff. And to be honest, it's disgusting. The Venezuelan stuff's kind of very easy to understand. This stuff is like our greatest ally, dude. Like, can someone say that and look me in the eyes with this story present? Like, it's just insane. I do need to get my headphones attached here in a second. But let's go to the next one here. This is from Syrian Girl on Twitter, someone else who posts a lot of stuff regarding this instance. This is a 16-second clip. I didn't want to watch this short bit because I was like, maybe this was taken out of context by quite a bit. And I was like, I'm going to go find the full version. Well, I found the full version's worse. I kid you not. I wish I could just sit here and be like, hey, it's actually a joke. Like, oh no, this is all fake stuff. Dude, just read that caption if you can on screen. That's what they were arguing for in the government of Israel. I'm going to go ahead and attach these because we do have some videos coming up that I want to take a listen to. I'm serious, man. And this is again, I'm angled towards these things specifically because from someone who is a Christian populist / Christian nationalist, when I'm looking at the biggest problems when it comes to America, the biggest problems when it comes to the dichotomy between men and women, when I'm looking at the biggest problems that comes to even local, regional, state level issues, almost everything that is wrong with America, it can all be followed down a line back to the fact that we are such a godless, hedonistic country. We have become that. We've moved away. We've done everything in our power to move away from having things such as hard disciplinary actions, moving away from things such as like the death penalty, moving away from things such as just having the Bible present in schools, moving away from even saying the Pledge of Allegiance. You know, that's why I view these things from such an absurd angle, at least to most people, because I watch as the GOP and many other Republicans sit there and they go, look at our greatest ally. Israel's our greatest ally. Even some of the Democrats do it. I don't see an ounce of behavior represented or coming from Israel that deems that they would be an ally to a Christian nation, particularly given the fact that a lot of what Judaism is, especially Talmudic Judaism, is completely antithetical to a lot of the ideas presented in the New Testament. And some of the stuff is just so disgusting and vile, it makes sense why the big tech oligarchs do everything in their power to ensure that you don't know what's in the Talmud, you don't know what some of their beliefs are. Because if the average person understood that, dude, they'd call the whole world anti-Semitic. And I'm not even joking you. So, to move a bit on forward, she just says here simply, the Israeli regime demands the right to rape and sodomize Palestinian hostages. Every Zionist accusation is a confession. Now, clearly, she's a bit more opinionated and biased than I am. I'm somebody who's trying to approach it from the most precautionary angle I can. But some of this stuff is so damning and so obvious and so clearly being suppressed and censored, I have to. So my show name is called Offensively Accurate. And I'm going to try to do that to the best of my ability. But it's causing unrest. So we'll go here to Pelham, and I'm going to go ahead and knock some of these tabs out as well. The Israel could be the first country in history to start a civil war over the right of its military to rape prisoners. And so as far as I understand, there are two actual government or military settlements or facilities, I should say, that are actively being protested against. It's moving from a protest to slight rioting. Now, I haven't seen any video come out of any actual conflict outside of just them kind of clashing at wherever the border may be. Not border per se, but border of the facility or these certain walls or gates of the prisons. Um, it's astonishing, quite honestly, some of the content that I've been seeing coming out of here. But we'll move on. We're just going to hit these back very, very quickly, just showing you some of these that are available. Here's another instance. I'll go ahead and make this. We don't need to even listen to it as well. Make sure the sound's off. But what you can see, they're losing their minds over this, right? So a lot of footage has come out about this, and it's just the IDF, and I think the IDF and local police fighting off a bunch of civilians for their right to rape. And the reason why this doesn't make any sense, and it would be so just like, what? There's no way. Like, why do these people think like that? And it's, well, okay. Well, that you probably think that because you don't understand some of the language that's used in the Talmud and some of what their actual beliefs are. Particularly, specifically, actually, I should say, and explicitly, language that talks about how a non-Jewish woman or non-Jewish people are eligible to be raped. And it's not a bad crime. It's just like, it's a minor one, but it's not perceived as nearly as bad as if they were to rape one of their own. I kid you not. Fact check me. I encourage you to look this stuff up. So go on the next one. Further context for Jewish law here. This is from Daniel Haki. I don't even know what that says, to be honest. It's from Daniel. Says Jewish laws promoting mass rape as a weapon of war are discussed under the heading of Ishet Yafat Tuavar. I think that's how you say it. The beautiful female captive. For example, in the Talmud, and he has all of these links here. But I'll go down to here. And again, this is a tweet if you want to know a bit more context of what I'm specifically talking about. He has multiple links here that go straight to the Talmud, or at least different sections of that. And you can read it for yourself as well. But he does a bit better of a breakdown. So many ads on these stupid pages, man. But here's some more context. Reminder. Traditional Judaism also permits sex with 3-year-olds and also holds that when an adult male Jew rapes a non-Jewish girl, the girl is to be executed. These points are explicitly set forth in authoritative Jewish legal treatises like Minesh Torah and Sochan Oruk. Some of these words I've never seen before. I hope I'm pronouncing them right. I'm not trying to be offensive in that regard. I will say, though, before we go further, because this is getting to be to a point in which people are probably finding this to be very, very unbelievable, there is a section of about a minute clip we're going to watch as government officials argue for this. They argue that these soldiers be released and that it be allowed to happen. I kid you not. We're going to get there. Also, sodomizing a boy under the age of 9 has no punishment according to the Talmud, and it references Sanhedrin 54b, if you're curious. So, to move on, because we're going to get to the actual interaction here. This is, I labeled this a good point. It says Israel has just experienced a riot over the right to rape Palestinian prisoners. If you don't think that's the sign of a society engulfed by a dangerous hatred, then I don't know what to say to you. And then next, even a Zionist propagandist couldn't stomach what was happening. That's actually what this is labeled as. Now it says breaking, an influential, fanatical Zionist propagandist has just come out and admitted that Israel is engaged in actual systemic mass rape of Palestinians and that they do it to those they know are innocent. He admits he was lied to by his own government, media, and friends. Now the screenshot here, hopefully everybody can see that. He writes, I feel stupid and ashamed. In May, an expose came out on CNN detailing the abuses in Sidi Taman, which I believe is the location of the military encampment, prison, whatever it may be. Then the New York Times released their own article on it. Both were backed up with Israeli sources crossed with Palestinian ones. I dismissed them because my government sources and Israeli media denied them. My whole life I was told that the international media was out to get Israel, that they were all anti-Semites. But today, I realized how much I was lied to. By my country, by my friends, by my media. Today, many of the people I talked to who denied these allegations admitted they were true. And the worst part, none of this is coming to light because the IDF and government have changed their hearts about it. It's coming out because the pressure from the UK, ICC, and ICJ was getting too great to ignore. This would get Netanyahu, Gallant, and the chief of staff in serious trouble. So they finally said the truth. that Israel is routinely torturing inmates. The sexual abuse is fairly common there. That people have been tortured to death. Now, that's obviously a common occurrence in war, especially in regards to the Middle East, if anyone who's seen Zero Dark 30. Worst of all, many of the people in this facility were innocent, rounded up by accident, but there was no real verification process before they were subjected to this hell on earth. This can't go on. Now, and we're going to get to this here, because this is the folder interaction that I was able to find, at least the longest video that was available to me that's not being suppressed. Let's go here. From Censored Men. Now, it's 1 minute and 14 seconds long, and this is the real banger of everything if you really want to get to drive it home for you. It says, oh, okay. So the Israeli Knesset actually had a debate on whether it's permissible for Jews to sodomize Gentile prisoners. Shared values, LMAFO. And before I play this, I would like to reiterate, as someone who has received no money from AIPAC, who sees no reason for an alliance with this random country in the Middle East, who sees no true actual shared values between Christianity and Judaism, I don't understand why it is such a sacred cow for so many of those on the GOP or on the right. I can really only boil it down to the fact of one major reason, and that is because how most Christianity overall has become this cultural Christianity. I imagine the same thing has occurred with the idea of Israel, with most people not understanding the true home of which the destruction of the temple and the actual timeline that orients the framework of Christianity and our understanding of it. As most people can really only kind of low IQ think, well, that's where Jesus was. And that's why they think that there is some great attachment to there without understanding the true nature of what Judaism is. And most people don't even realize how many times these same Talmudic and rabbinical Jews have tried to push to ban evangelizing in Israel, as well as other places too. They've tried lobbying for that in different portions of America. They do not want Christianity to spread in Israel. And they're one, if not the only, ethno-state that's allowed to exist and be proud of it. Can you imagine if America was like, we're the state of whites? You'd get it screamed at for racists. But when you come over here and like, this is a state for Jews, the whites and the blacks go, yeah, man. It doesn't make any sense to me. I don't understand it. But here's the video though. And if you can understand what they're saying, because I can't either, it's the captions are available right there. And again, any issues with the sound, please let me know. I will adjust accordingly.
אני לא יודע אם יודעים, אבל יש אירוע כרגע בשדה תימן שמשטרה צבאית הגיעו לעצור חיילים ששמרו על מחבלי נוח'בה. והחיילים בשדה תימן, מתקן מעצר של מחבלי נוח'בה, ומשטרה צבאית שם הגיעה לעצור כמה לוחמים שם שכנראה בגלל איזשהם טענות של יחס למחבלי נוח'בה, ויש שם אירוע של התבצרות וכולי. הטרלול שהמדינה שלנו נכנסת אליו סביב הסיפור הזה הוא מטורף, וצריך להפסיק אותו, ואני חושב שצריך פה לתת דוגמה אישית, ואני אומר עכשיו, ואני קורא לחברי הקואליציה לעשות כמוני, אני קם, ואני יוצא מפה, ואני לא הולך להצביע יותר על שום דבר, עד שהסיפור הזה והטרלול הזה, שיש מי שבפרקליטות חושב, שאפשר לבוא ולעצור חיילים על דברים שעושים למחבלי נוח'בה, לא נגמר. אוקיי? ואני מאוד מבקש, ואני חושב שחבריי בקואליציה טוב יעשו, אם יעשו כמוני. אנחנו לא יכולים להמשיך כרגיל.
להכניס מקל לרקטום של בן אדם, זה לגיטימי?
כן, אם הוא נוח'בה, הכל לגיטימי לעשות לו.
אוקיי.
הכל.
מצוין.
הכל.
זה מה שרציתי.
הכל, האנשים האלה, אתה יודע מה עשו?
אוקיי.
טוב.
יש דברים שלא עושים.
So if you didn't understand that, it's about right here, okay? This guy in the green is arguing. I'm not sure who he exactly is, and I really don't understand the language. Arguing right there that he will get up and leave if there's someone in the prosecutor office who thinks it's possible to arrest the soldiers for the actions they did. Insane. Actually insane. Now, I think most people, and then you get to this point, right? This is what's being shared all over. This is the screenshot here. Absurd. That this is what this Knesset here is arguing over. And again, it's one of those things where it's going to be called, and then you get chatters in here just like how it's happening right now. I bet I have no idea how it happened, and just going to come in here and just argue. And this is the reason why. This is why I'm going to push back on it. You'll get called an anti-Semite for even putting this stuff on screen. It enrages these people. Go ahead and report this video if you find this to be too offensive for your liking. There's nothing redeemable about this. Everything in this video is entirely reprehensible. There's nothing that at all whatsoever could ever substantiate the need or validation of raping someone. Not at all. And to add to that too, the reporting is also arguing, allegedly, that some of these people were entirely innocent and rounded up. It's one of these things that's just so aggressively disgusting. And I can't look someone in the eyes who sits here and goes, Israel is our greatest ally. There is nothing we share with these people. I'm tired of sitting here and avoiding the sacred cow. I wish they would all repent and turn to Jesus Christ. And I wish we didn't have to deal with such a perverted, suppressive evil inside of our own parties. And again, this is something that I've been knocking on the door at or banging the drum on for quite some time now too. Little bit by little bit. But this really was over the top for me. It was actually to a point in which I'm actually entirely unafraid to sit here and go JQ or the JQ and bring up these instances. I think many people need to have their eyes open to this. I think it's actually it is very inhumane, bottom line. But I think more specifically is that I think the longer that this stuff just goes unnoticed and isn't present in the mainstream media, the more you're going to get people who are unknowingly supporting something they don't even understand. Unfortunate, but again, as someone who is Christian, boldly Christian, I can't stand for it and I refuse to stand for it. It's in the same light as the abolitionist argument as well. You pair that with how the current GOP is now pandering to the left while also pairing themselves alongside groups such as this. It's honestly just too much. And, it's not me sitting here and saying, well, I'm not going to vote for anybody now and the system's broken. No, there's still work to be done and changes to be had, even if they're at the minimal level on the margins. But this is something that's got to be blown open. We got to figure out this problem. And I think the writing's been on the wall on this for quite some time, particularly by the fact of how we see it taking hold here in America. I believe it was not even a few months ago where we had the protests happening on campuses regarding this. And especially I think it was just a week ago, when Netanyahu came to visit and the actual outpouring of public resistance that was seen then. This is something it's just going to keep bubbling until people decide to actually pay attention to it and draw a moral line somewhere. And I can only hope that the moral line that's drawn is one that comes from a Christian perspective. That's my hope, at least. But either way, entirely despicable and disgusting, vile. But separate from this, though, to move on to another topic, although we're not leaving Israel, though, is that Israel bombed Lebanon, the capital Beirut, today in an airstrike. So tensions are rising. I don't need to show the footage of that, actually. And it just goes to show, you pair what we just saw along with the fact of their history of wanting to ban the spreading of the gospel. Then you look at all the escalation that they partake in, and you look at how much money we send them. It's just like nothing about it makes sense. And that's why I said earlier, I think it was 2 episodes ago, at least come to the position with me. You don't have to come the whole 9 yards. At least come to the position of, why are we sending our money to these people? You don't need to come the whole 9 yards and take on the ecclesiastical foundation argument with me, but at least look at this nonsense and go, why do we send money to people whose government officials argue for sodomization of prisoners? What values do you share with these people? And clearly, I do have to say, now that's not a clear and absolute representation of all people who reside in Israel. As obviously there is resistance, you can see there are officers who are preventing the protesters from getting in and having their way. It is not an absolute, but it goes to show that there are factions inside that country, numerous and much more voluminous than what we have here in the States, that we do not share values with. And I do not find it to be in the United States' best interest, nor do I find it to be America first, to continue with the relationship that we have currently with Israel in its current form. So, to make a hard segue, now that I probably made whoever that random chatter is mad, we're going to move to some of these aspects with Thomas Crooks and some of the latest updates regarding the assassination attempt on Donald Trump's life. Starting off with this, the founder of Gab, who is Andrew Torba, which is a social media network, let me actually move that so it's not on screen, had to file what you can see there, which is an emergency disclosure request regarding the social media accounts and the nature of the social media accounts of supposed shooter Thomas Matthew Crooks, because the FBI deputy director essentially lied about the nature of the social media accounts, essentially arguing back and forth. And what you can see here, and I'll go ahead and read it. FBI Deputy Director Paul Abbott just told Congress that an account believed to be associated with the shooter had posted 700 comments in 2019 and 2020 with anti-Semitic and anti-immigration views. Whereas Andrew Torba, the founder of Gab, found the account in which they believe, and I believe it's been verified, that it is Thomas Matthew Crooks, then filed this Emergency Disclosure Act to put it out in front of people that everything that he has shown on Gab, or at least commented and liked and talked towards, was to the complete opposite of that. It was pro-immigration, pro-Joe Biden, pro all of the things that you would imagine would come from a left-wing perspective. Now read here. While the investigative team is still working to verify this account to determine if it did in fact belong to the shooter, we believe it important to share and note it today, particularly given the general absence of other information to date from social media that reflect on the shooter's potential motive and mindset. However, the FBI's request to Gab specifically identified Thomas Crooks' account as Epic Microwave, just a wild name to be honest, which had posted comments completely opposite to what the FBI just told Congress. Moreover, Crooks donated $15 to a progressive PAC in 2021. Now, again, $15 ain't much, but I guess for somebody of that age, it's a good amount for them. And he also posted comments supporting Joe Biden's border policies on Gab weeks later in February of 2021. So we're going to go here to this video.
Something just very recently uncovered.
Make sure the volume is going to be okay, actually. But this is Ray Abbott arguing for the complete opposite of what Andrew Torba came out with.
Something just very recently uncovered that I want to share is a social media account which is believed to be associated with the shooter in about the 2019-2020 timeframe. There were over 700 comments posted from this account. Some of these comments, if ultimately attributable to the shooter, appear to reflect anti-Semitic and anti-immigration themes, to espouse political violence, and are described as extreme in nature. While the investigative team is still working to verify this account to determine if it did in fact belong to the shooter, we believe it important to share and note it today, particularly given the general absence of other information to date from.
So you can see on this right-hand side, it's just been flashing evidence that points to the complete opposite of that, if in fact Epic Microwave is indeed the shooter. You could see one of these comments here talking about Customs and Border Protection, who's slamming the Biden administration. He's responding to the oppositionally of that, which he's saying, that's funny because the First Order mandates reuniting. So clearly in an effort to be, pro-Joe Biden or pro-immigration, I guess however you want to say that. But at least everything is showing that he is being left-leaning. Now, the rest of this is just, the continuation of what he was saying. But this imagery is all available here. On this account as well, Kanekoa the Great, but also Andrew Torba posted it himself, even thanking Torba as well for what he was doing. And again, Andrew Torba is a very, very well-known Christian in the space. I think most people would deem him to be Christo-fascist, given some of his stances being a bit more on the Christian nationalist aspect or side. And to continue this, though, there's a lot more regarding all of this. Let me go ahead and get rid of these again. It got bad for not only the Secret Service director, but as well as some of these FBI acting directors as well. They got tore apart by Josh Hawley and by Ted Cruz. Now we're going to go through a series of these. There's about 3 clips, I think, all told. They're quite a bit long, so there'll be a lot more watching of clips than we normally do. We're just going to go ahead and bang these out here. This starter one right here, though, is a little bit shorter, but it's from Nick Sortor, saying that the acting Secret Service director, Rowe, just said he has no explanation why the shooter's drone worked, while their own drones wouldn't due to connectivity issues. On its face, is just like, come on, dude. Like, you think I'm buying this? That this 20-year-old kid gets his, bought from Walmart drone working, but you have Secret Service in the state-of-the-art federal, these high-end, probably militarized drones, and they're not working? Come on, dude. But again, they think the average American is stupid, and a lot of them are. So it makes sense why they're trying such low effort lies here. But we'll go ahead and listen to him and see what he says it for himself. And again, any issues with the volume, please let me know. I'll adjust it accordingly.
Director Rowe, can you explain why the shooter's drone worked?
Because there was no counter UAS present, sir.
Well, you had a drone system, but you had bandwidth problems. The bandwidth apparently was adequate for the shooter's drone, but not for the Secret Service. Can you explain that?
I have no explanation for it, sir.
We also know that in a military context, electronic warfare or jamming capabilities are commonly used on the battlefield. Does the Secret Service have jamming capabilities or drones?
We have drones, sir, and when it comes to, I have to be very careful about how I answer this one in an open forum. What I can tell you is that we have technical security measures, sir, to address, I think, what you're asking me.
Well, the question is, can you take down a suspicious drone? Because this can be used not only for surveillance by the shooter, which obviously it was here, but also drones can be weaponized and be used as a threat to the president, or in this case, the President Trump. Do you have the capacity to stop a weaponized drone?
What I will tell you, sir, is that we have technical security measures that we utilize at permanently protected sites. We also have the ability in a limited fashion at temporary sites. What I can tell you is that on this day, the counter UAS system had technical difficulties and did not go operational until after 5 o'clock.
So he literally just can't say anything, then barely answers the questions. And then maybe it's in an attempt to be like, our technology is actually so advanced, I can't explain to you the intricacies of why it didn't work that day. And they just kind of, I'm trying to play devil's advocate here. And maybe it's just some kind of loose kind of deflection of like, maybe we messed up on our systems, it didn't have them. Either way, incompetence, but I'm not buying that. It's just, it's aggressively going way beyond incompetence now at this point. Too many holes in the stories, too many random text messages being shown. And it gets worse. It definitely gets worse. We're going to go to Josh Hawley here, who takes him to town. This is from Viva Fry, I believe. Or no, this isn't the one I wanted. I wanted this one. From Benny Johnson, a different section of Josh Hawley talking. Now I'll go ahead and pause this here and read what he has to say. Benny Johnson writes, total humiliation. Josh Hawley breaks disgraced U.S. Secret Service director, after forcing him to admit there has been no punishment after Trump was shot in the head. The former president was shot. Fire somebody. I can't believe you would say you are being persecuted. We've got people who are dead. And it says, listen to the room gasp. So go ahead and take a listen to this. And again, any audio issues, let me know.
Other Americans were critically wounded. Isn't that enough mission failure for you to say that the person who decided that building should not be in the security perimeter probably ought to be stepped down?
Senator, I think you're using the word decided, and I think we need to allow the investigation play out to include.
So who did make the decision then? If it wasn't the lead site agent, who made the decision not to put that in the security perimeter?
Senator, you're zeroing in on one particular agent. I want to find out exactly what was the entire decision process. So I think I want to be neutral and make sure that we get to the bottom of it and interview everybody in order to determine if there was more than one person who perhaps exercised bad judgment.
Well, sure. My question is, why don't you relieve everybody of duty who made bad judgment? So, yeah, you're right. I am zeroing in on somebody. I'm trying to find somebody who's accountable here.
Fair.
And you're
telling me that the person who made the decision not to include this in the perimeter has...
I gotta say right now, it's always weird because when you watch these televised events, very rarely do you see like an odd angle of all the camera people who were like up close trying to get these good angles like this. This just seems so weird. Like a bunch of people sitting on their laps and knees amidst something that's so, overwhelmingly important. But I guess it also makes sense, something of this nature, they'd be taking pictures. You would just imagine they'd be taking pictures like from, the alongside the wall and not like or directly underneath the senators and Congress people.
Has not been relieved of duty. What about the person who's in charge of the interoperability of radio frequencies between local law enforcement and Secret Service? Has that person been relieved of duty?
No, Senator, because interoperability is a challenge, is a greater challenge than just one person. On that day, we had a counterpart system. It failed
As the person who made the decision to send Donald Trump onto stage knowing that you had a security situation, has that person been relieved of duty?
No, sir, they haven't.
Has the person who decided not to pull the former president off of stage when you knew that, in your words, the locals were working a serious security situation, has that person been relieved of duty?
No, sir. Again, I refer you back to my original answer that we are investigating this through a mission assurance. And as opposed to zeroing in on one,
what more do you need to investigate to know
exactly what the
what more do you need to investigate to know that there were critical enough failures that some individuals ought to be held accountable? I mean, what more do you need to know?
And that's real, because you take everything away. You don't even know any of these specifics. You can just go to something as basic as the fact of, now that it's been confirmed that multiple different posts, positions, and officers, whether it was local law enforcement and Secret Service, or just some random three-letter federal agent, you knew that there was a suspicious person with a rangefinder, and they were probably going to be threatening, and still chose, and minutes before this occurred, and still chose not to take Trump off the stage in order to investigate. It's one of the most it's the most black and white thing. It's like, all of these reports from all these different posts in the communications, and now that we have the text messages showing that they communicated amongst themselves about this, then choose not to get him off the stage amidst all of that minutes before the shot was fired. Occam's razor doesn't suggest incompetence here. Occam's razor suggests somebody intentionally wanted this to happen.
I need to know is exactly what happened, and I need my investigators to do their job. And I cannot,
a lot of people didn't do their jobs.
Put my thumb on the scale. Otherwise,
what do you mean put your thumb on the scale?
You're asking me, Senator, to completely make a rush to judgment about somebody failing. I acknowledge this was a failure of the Secret Service.
Is it not prima facie that somebody has failed? A former president was shot.
Sir, this could have been our Texas school book depository. I have lost sleep over that for the last 17 days,
then
just like you have.
Somebody
and
to
I will
hold
tell
them
you,
accountable.
Senator, I will tell you, Senator, that I will not rush to judgment, that people will be held accountable, and I will do so with integrity and not rush to judgment and put people unfairly persecuted.
Unfairly persecuted?
Unfairly, sir.
Who are
we have to be able to have a proper investigation into this, Senator.
You said earlier that you've got to make sure that your protocols are followed, and unless there's a protocol violation, people wouldn't be disciplined. I would just say to you, I don't really care that much about your protocols. I think if your protocols don't provide for the fact that when a former president is shot, when an American is killed, when other rally-goers, innocent people who just showed up on the day, when they are shot at and critically wounded, if that isn't a protocol violation prima facie, you should revise your protocols.
Senator, I think this is where you and I agree. This was a failure, and we will get to the bottom of it.
Well, I hope you're going to do something about it. Let me ask you something else. The
Real.
Real Clear Politics reports this morning that you were directly involved in denying additional security resources and personnel, including counter snipers, not just to this event, but over the last 2 years, that President Trump's team repeatedly asked for these additional resources, and you personally were involved in denying them. Is that true?
Senator,
That's insane, dude. Like being amidst all of that and then also being lined up with the fact of, but aren't you the guy who personally for the last 2 years was making it as hard as possible to get extra backup or the adequate level of Secret Service and security that the Trump team was asking for? Like, just an awful look, dude. Just an awful look. And there was somebody, not to make too much of an aside, there was somebody who was recently on a Timcast IRL episode who was hardcore arguing that he thinks it was just the Swiss cheese theory, which is he thinks it was incompetence and that it was just a really bad day and all these things lined up coincidentally. And it's like, dude, somebody been drinking the Kool-Aid, man.
as I stated earlier, that is not true.
So you never denied any resources to former President Trump's team?
No, not me. No, sir.
And you weren't involved in any of that? You were never involved in the decision making?
No, sir, I was not.
Let me ask you just one or two other things here quickly. Well, whistleblowers tell me that, in fact, law enforcement were stationed to be on that roof and that law enforcement abandoned their post because it was too hot. Is that accurate?
Dude, I heard that. I didn't know it was real. I thought that wasn't realistic. Johnny Music saying 90 minutes of suspicious activity and nothing happened to eliminate the threat. What a great Secret Service. And that's the point. And it's not even the fact of going to eliminate the threat. It's the fact of recognizing that something might be a possible threat. And instead of trying to take Trump off stage and then figure out what that threat may be and then resume, they just said, we'll just see what happens. Play on, like play ball. Like, dude, no, I ain't buying it for a second. And I did, and this was one of the arguments that they abandoned the post because the roof or the area of that building was just too hot for the Secret Service members.
Senator, I have heard that as well. Again, they posted up inside. And I think moving forward, as I said earlier, we're going to ensure that state and local counter snipers are on roofs.
But do you know if someone was supposed to be on the roof? Do you know if someone was in fact? That's what the whistleblowers tells me. That may or may not be accurate. Do you know that to be the fact? Was somebody posted to the roof, local law enforcement or whomever?
I do not know that to be a fact.
Well, can I ask you why you don't know that?
Again, Senator, we are looking at this, and they should have been on that roof. And the fact that they were in the building is something that I'm still trying to understand.
I just want to express my frustration, Director, that 17 days or whatever it's been, that whistleblowers are telling us more than you are, and you don't know, you haven't ascertained if there was supposed to be law enforcement on the roof. That seems like a pretty basic fact. I'm also told that local law enforcement suppliers offered the Secret Service drones, and you declined them. Is that true?
So, Senator, one, I've been very transparent and forthcoming.
Your agency has not been transparent and forthcoming, so please, let's not go there.
I have been forthcoming, sir.
That remains to be seen. You've been on the job a few days. So far, you've fired nobody. Now, the drones.
Thank you,
sir.
And again, for those who might not be aware, he's the acting director since the woman did resign, Mrs. Cheadle, who was the actual acting director before him.
For drones?
Senator
So there was an offer to fly a drone on that day.
And why did you deny it?
Again, I think the ability of local law enforcement to provide an asset, we probably should have taken them up on it if it was offered.
And wouldn't that be considered perjury, though? Like 3 questions ago, they asked the guy, did you ever deny assistance or added security to Trump? Were you ever involved in the decision-making regarding not giving enough? And then he 4 questions later, he's like, I actually did personally turn down a drone. What? Though I will say, I didn't hear the gasp from the audience, but maybe I'm just deaf. I could be just retarded too, and I missed it completely. But here's the next one, though, and this is Ted Cruz taking him on. It says Ted Cruz savage mode. It's a little bit longer than what we just watched, but this is what Benny Johnson also says, back-to-back ones I saw from him. Senator Ted Cruz just ended the career of disgraced Secret Service director on live TV. The Secret Service lied to the American people about protecting Trump, and you have fired no one. Director snaps, begins shaking and screaming. So this is one that I have not seen yet at all. I only saw the description of. I actually saw the previous ones we've seen so far, or at least a portion of them. And let's just take this for what it is. Let's go ahead and see. Imagine it's a furthering of the line of questioning we just saw. But again, any issue with this sound, please let me know.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Rowe, thank you for being here. I agree with what you said at the outset, that the individual Secret Service agents demonstrated remarkable personal courage, putting their bodies in between the line of sight of the shooter and the president. That being said, the bravery of the line agents is quite different from the decisions of Secret Service leadership. Secret Service leadership committed catastrophic security failures, indeed the worst security failures for the Secret Service since 1981, since the attempted assassination of President Ronald Reagan. It is incumbent upon this committee to determine why those security failures happened. Just after the shooting,
cue the big sign.
Secret Service put out an official statement from your spokesperson that says there's an untrue assertion that a member of the former president's team requested additional security resources and that those were rebuffed. This is absolutely false. In fact, we added protective resources and technology and capabilities as part of the increased campaign travel tempo. Was this tweet accurate?
With respect to Butler, Pennsylvania, it is accurate, sir.
It is accurate that the Trump team had not asked for additional security and had not been rebuffed.
If you're talking about Butler, Pennsylvania, all assets requested were approved. If you're talking about the media reporting of assets requested, there were times when assets were unavailable and not able to be filled, and those gaps were staffed with state and local law enforcement tactical assets.
So I'm reading from the Washington Post, July 20th, 2024. Secret Service said to have denied
what I'm
requests for more
confused about,
security at Trump.
I'm sorry, I couldn't pause it fast enough, is he literally just said, we just saw in the Holly video, which I'm assuming Holly went beforehand because Cruz was sitting right next to him, saying that he did personally turn down a drone asset, but then says specifically regarding Butler, Pennsylvania, that that tweet is actually true. But again, I'm an idiot for thinking there might be a penalty for a government official lying.
Trump events, the opening paragraph. Top officials of the U.S. Secret Service repeatedly denied requests for additional resources and personnel sought by Donald Trump's security detail in the 2 years leading up to his attempted assassination, according to 4 people familiar with the requests. Is that right, that repeatedly the Trump detail asked for more resources and repeatedly Secret Service leadership turned that down?
That is not accurate, Senator. Assets are requested. There's a process that is made. And
how many requests did the Trump team or the Trump detail ask for?
I can get you that number in a queue.
You don't know now.
So I can speak to the ones that were reported in the Washington Post, and we can go through them if you like.
But you don't know how many requests there were.
In general, how many requests since 2021 that the former...
How would you not have a lot of this data on hand? And dude, for the fact that he's going to reference the Washington Post for where he's sourcing his material from, is like, dude, this isn't even in good faith whatsoever. This makes me feel like this guy is another slot in to just be a sacrificial lamb to get people to be like, woo, we fired another director, like, and really still not get to the bottom of it, especially because there's still not even really an official story to set the narrative for what happened.
Trump detail has made a request for assets?
You've had 2 weeks. You had a spokesperson put something out that is false on its face. By the way, did you approve this statement when it went out?
I don't know if I did or didn't, Senator.
Has this spokesperson, is he still employed? Does he still have a job?
He is still employed, Senator.
So he lied on behalf of the Secret Service. He still has a job. Did your predecessor, the former director, did she approve this statement?
Senator, our comms team, they send out statements. They do deconflict them and they put them out.
Did she approve this statement?
I don't know if she did or did not, Senator.
And you don't know if you did either?
I don't recall approving it, Senator.
Oh, my gosh. It's always the go-to. I can't remember.
Will you commit to provide this committee in writing every written request for additional resources from the Trump campaign or the Trump detail and every response from Secret Service?
Senator, I will commit to providing responses and getting you the information that you are seeking.
Let me ask you something. And who makes the decision to deny those requests? Did you make that decision?
Which requests? Are you talking about the ones that were in the Washington Post?
Yes.
So the process, sir, is that a detail will make a request for either staffing, technical assets, that is handled between the field office and the detail. It goes up to a logistics office between our
Okay, so there's a bureaucracy. Is there a decision maker?
It's not a bureaucracy, Senator.
Give me the
it's a
person
process.
that's a decision maker. Is there one?
Senator, it's a conversation. It's not just an absolute yay or nay.
So let me tell you what I believe. I believe that the Secret Service leadership made a political decision to deny these requests. And I think the Biden administration has been suffused with partisan politics. Did the same person who denied the request for additional security to President Trump also repeatedly deny the request for security to Robert F. Kennedy Jr., whose father was murdered by an assassin and whose uncle was murdered by an assassin? Did the same person make that decision?
Senator, what I will tell you is that Secret Service agents are not political.
Okay, you're not answering my question. But you know what?
Leadership
appointed by the president, leadership appointed by the president is political. I have a simple question, yes or no. Did the same person deny the Trump request that also denied the RFK request? That's a yes or no question.
Senator, that is not a yes or no question. One, there was a process for a candidate.
He said, is it the same person, yes or no? And he's like, that's not a yes or no question. Let's play the devil's advocate argument here. Imagine being this guy, and imagine if you did have absolutely nothing to do with what's going on, but you're just a simply like incompetent 3-letter agent guy who just is now taking all of the flack for what may have only been done from people above you, and now you're just playing the position, just getting flogged publicly. Just something to think about, you know.
Nominee to receive protection.
Does the buck stop anywhere? Does the buck stop anywhere?
Bipartisan process that the Hill
It's a bicameral, bipartisan process. What camera?
For a candidate,
you are not a Congress. You don't have a camera.
Mr. Kennedy submitted a request that was referred over to the CPAC.
Okay, you're refusing to answer the question. Let me ask, because the failures on that day were catastrophic. By the way, is it true that on the day of the Butler event that Secret Service transferred agent from President Trump to the First Lady?
No, sir, that's not true.
That's been widely reported.
It's not true. There was one airport agent that actually went on the manpower request for the Trump detail. They handled the arrival at the airport
What was the relative
the
size of the Trump detail compared to the detail that is assigned to the President or the First Lady?
Senator, the former president travels with a full shift, just like the president.
So the exact same size? Is that your testimony, that President Trump had the same size detail that President Biden has?
On the day of in Butler, the agents surrounding him, it is the same number of agents surrounding the president today. There is a difference between a sitting president who also not only
Hold on, you're using president in a way that is not clear. Is it your testimony that in Butler, Pennsylvania, Donald Trump had the same number of agents protecting him that Joe Biden has at a comparable event?
I'm telling you the shift, the close protection shift surrounding.
That's a yes
what you
or no?
asked me, Senator, and I'm trying to answer it.
You are not answering it. Is it the same number of agents or not?
Senator, there is a difference between the sitting president of the United States.
Then what's the difference?
The difference?
2x, 3x, 5x,
National
10x?
Command Authority to launch a nuclear strike, sir.
I'm not asking.
Oh my gosh, he's really won't answer the question here.
That the former president will not
refusing
get.
to
But
answer
the number
straight.
of Secret Service agents protecting him.
But that's something you should know literally offhand, bro. Offhand, as the director or the acting director, deputy, wouldn't you know something as basic as how big a shift is or a team of guys are?
Stop interrupting me.
Go ahead,
You
Senator.
are refusing to answer clear and direct questions. I am asking the relative difference in the number of agents between those assigned to Donald Trump and those assigned to Joe Biden. I'm not asking why you assign more to Joe Biden. I'm asking, is the difference, is it 2x? Is it 3x? Is it 5x? Is it 10x?
Senator, I will get you that number so you can see it with your own eyes.
Oh my gosh, dude. The guy knows nothing, dude. They found the stupidest guy in Secret Service, and they were like, bro, you got to take one for the team, man. Like, if we put someone who literally is just dumb, he can't answer anything. And like, it seems to be the strategy they're working with. Just insanity and a nice, I shouldn't even say nice, an update on what is going on in regards to the hearings and court proceedings involving Secret Service and the investigations as such. Now, on the day, we have a few other smaller stories. I'm going to go ahead and wind things down here. Looks like I'm going to go about 30 minutes left. I don't even know if I'm going to hit the 30-minute mark with these last three, but we'll start here. On the day, though, here's some of the smaller stories I saw pop up. This is from the Wheeze. Not sure who this account is, but they report breaking the secret vaccine purchase agreement that South Africa signed with Pfizer has been released. Unknown efficacy, unknown adverse events, unknown long-term effects. Leaders around the world recklessly turned their citizens into lab rats by signing this garbage. The whole pandemic was a scam. Now, this section here on the purchaser acknowledgement is an agreement that would have to be confirmed, right, by the purchaser, which would be, in this instance, South Africa. And in this instance, South Africa is acknowledging in this purchase that the vaccine and the materials related to the vaccine and their components and constituent materials are being rapidly developed due to the emergency circumstances of the pandemic and will continue to be studied after provision of the vaccine to purchaser under the agreement. Purchaser further acknowledges that the long-term effects and efficacy of the vaccine are not currently known, and that there may be adverse effects of the vaccine that are not currently known. Further, to the extent applicable, purchaser acknowledges that the product shall not be serialized. It looks like this tweet is doing numbers, almost about 1 million views now. It's from earlier. He provides the link to the full agreement between Pfizer and South Africa, so I do believe him. And again, I would imagine there'd be a community note on this at this point. It was tweeted from 8:30 this morning, almost at 1 million views. I'd imagine if it was not true, we would be seeing a nice fat community note on there. But again, just to show you a nice reminder of the period of time we lived through during 2020, and to get some of these revelations, such as something as simple as being in this purchaser acknowledgement. And again, this is at the time that they're going to be they're mass stumping them out, and they fight tooth and nail to tell you, the viewer, the customer, the citizen, that indeed they know that it's safe and effective, right? Like, how many times did you hear that during 2020, 2021, 2022? And then this would have had to have been signed early on, right, between Pfizer and South Africa at the height of it. So back then in 2020, when they started pushing these things in the purchaser agreement, you had to even acknowledge as the country and officials, as the government, that the vaccine effects were unknown at the time. And it man, just the way that they wrote all these things out to avoid liability is incredible. But again, a nice reminder for the crimes against humanity that many countries, and in fact most governments, committed against every human being on the global population. Massive scale. We have another one here. It's a little bit weirder, not nearly as newsworthy, but it is a bit odd. Mary Morgan tweeted, and if you're not familiar, she's Mary Archived on X, and she's also one of the co-hosts that regularly performs on Timcast IRL, but she also runs the show Pop Culture Crisis, which is a fledgling show underneath Timcast. She says you should read up on this Avi Schiffman guy because he seems completely insane. At 17 years old, he launched the first website for globally tracking COVID cases, which was so widely celebrated that Dr. Fauci himself presented him an award for it. Now he's launching Friend, an AI-powered wearable necklace. It constantly listens to your conversations to become an expert on your personality and interest. That's totally not a goldmine of exploitable user data. He claims that Friend will not store audio recordings, and that users can change or delete whatever memories that friend has stored. She says, LOL, sure. I mean, the same, dude. My exact thoughts, exactly. He's selling this as a solution to the loneliness epidemic, mental health crisis. In reality, he's planning to get exorbitantly rich off of these societal ills. AI companions will never be a substitute for real human relationships. Now, she quoted it with the image of this guy. He just looks like a random dude, to be honest. But this is the trailer for it. And he posted it himself, saying, introducing Friend, not imaginary. Order now at friend.com. I wonder how much money he had to pay for that website, for that domain. Go ahead and play a little bit of this to see what this ad is like. Welcome to the future.
Gosh, I'm out of breath. We made it. Woo! I don't know how to woo very good. That's fair. All right, let's go.
Let me show you how to game, bro, okay? Oh, come on. Oh, let's go!
Are you serious?
Come on, man. I hate this game.
Take notes, baby.
Oh man, you guys suck.
Bro, you look like the back
Let's
of the
go. Let's go.
Dude, what? How did you do that?
That was very motivational.
I know the effects are crazy. It's dank. I could eat one of these every day. Oh, sorry, I got you messy.
It's really nice up here. How'd you find this place?
I don't know. I just kind of like to come up here to be by myself. I've never brought anybody else.
This is so dystopian. The music doesn't make it any better. The music's playing out like these weird kind of After Effects synth kind of sounds. It's really just it seems to be an overpriced AI texting companion, but obviously it probably has a bit more access to who you are. But clearly the selling point is that you wear it around your neck so that it can consume as much personal data about you so it can be the best friend that it can be. Creepy stuff, dude.
I mean, besides her.
She goes everywhere with you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Guess I must be doing something right, though.
I guess so. We'll see.
Dude, $99. Fuck, get out of here. Mary's completely right though. You know, this is gonna take advantage and exploit the societal ills that we do see, which is, you know, for one, especially, I mean, it affects both men and women, but I think men a lot more, at least right now, currently how it sits. Maybe I could be wrong on that, but loneliness is an epidemic right now. The depression epidemic, the lack of purpose epidemic. And a lot of it, you know, is driven by the desire for people to do things that are so outside the norm societally, in unnatural ways that they're not actually normally driven to do these things. What I mean by that is, you know, for there to be pressures externally to do these things, you know, case in point being women waiting until they're like 40 years old to have children, getting these kind of odd pressures. But it seems to be that this will be, even if it's planned or intended to, he will definitely get rich selling this off for people who have just no friends, lonely, socially awkward, taking advantage of the fact that people are so absorbed in their devices they can't normally act like socially. Let's see, we have this here from Lucid Words. I think you need to know that there is a difference between the treatment of terrorists in Israel, including the ones that killed civilians, than how they want to treat the Naba force, which I don't come in my chat and sit here and tell me what you need to do to justify rape. You can get out, unfollow me, block me whenever you need to. You're not going to come in this chat room right now and tell me that you can sit here and justify raping of any kind, dude. That stuff is disgusting. Anyways, it's sad because it's one of like many examples showing how there's just all these different unique ways. I think it was not too long ago we had the cell phone with the implanted girl inside of it, and it was like this girlfriend that like would do the similar kind of things, and there was different formats of it too. I believe Asmongold covered it, and he had a huge video that blew up for it, and it's just, man, it's so depressing, but it's right on the precipice, and because we do live in this capitalistic system, it's just like, could you expect anything else? There is a natural inclination to always exploit what will make money. And that's just the society we live in. Okay, maybe I was wrong. Cheddar says they should not be harmed, of course, also. Okay, fair enough. But you need to know there is a difference. I don't lie. I never justified it. Don't lie. Okay, it looks like you're freaking out. And see, this is what I mean by like the insanity regarding like the Israel-Palestine issue, is that like people just come in here and want to justify the most ridiculous things. I don't care. There is no difference. Just because somebody committed a crime doesn't make them any more or less of a sinner than somebody who didn't commit a crime in the eyes of a human being. That's just the way it is. Agree to disagree. And this is what you're also saying. I never justified it. You are censoring because I have different view of you. And brother, I mean, there's nothing I can, look at this. Here, you want to see how long this goes actually? I'll stop talking. Oh, wait, dude. I knew this was going to happen too. I knew I was going to get somebody in here who's going to spam this out. And you wrote it after I wrote, they should not be harmed, of course. So you went into dialogue. Dishonest of me. There's no difference between these people, brother. There's no difference. You're trying to make a dehumanization argument about to characterize a group of people that makes them less human than some other group of people. I'm telling you, I actually reject the entire premise of anything that you could say to further that argument. The supposition that underlines it is egregious. Now, the difference may be that it says you just read one comment and then threatened to block me. I said block me, brother. That's why I freak out. And here, let's be honest. There's a portion of which this episode and this podcast that I gave my opinion on it. You say, I just hate when people say of you, then shout me up. But the point being is I'm rejecting what you're saying. And there's no further argument to be had. And the point being is I said block me. Like, don't come on here and start spamming my chat out about these differences between Israel and all of this. I don't spam. I just see you read it, so I reply. Yeah, look at this. I'm assuming, like, do you see what I'm talking about? Do you see why, like, this is insufferable stuff, dude. Insufferable. I just tried giving the Christian position of what I feel about Judaism and the way that Israel is currently treating their prisoners in Palestine. And there's no argument to be had. I gave my argument. And if you don't appreciate it, there's probably someone else you can go follow in videos that will sit there and agree with you and say, yes, there is ways that we can sit here and discern that there's difference between these people and we can dehumanize them in these different elements. But not here. And there are just 5 people here. The chat is inactive. Entirely correct. But that's why I mean by, like, you're spamming my chat out. Look how many messages you're getting. Okay, fine. I leave. Like, thank you. I appreciate that. I don't want anything here that's going to be just egregious and toxic and sit here and spew out this you're anti-Semitic. Oh, this is why it's actually justified. This is why. No, dude. Like, those arguments are just dead in the water. I don't want to hear them. So, moving on, though. See, you defame me because of a comment. How am I defaming you? No one even knows who you are. You are a random chatter on a tiny channel on YouTube. And you are being the exact example. Let me ask this. Are you Jewish? Oh, wait, 'cause it's probably a little bit delayed. I guess we'll see. We'll see how much the delay is. Either way, though. Okay, see, it's just nonsense, dude. Okay. I'm not going to ban you, dude, because I'm not censoring people. I said to block me. I'm not even going to pay attention to the chat. Okay. This is the last and final story I wanted to go to. It just keeps going, dude. Okay. Kamala Harris says mandatory gun confiscation is a great idea. If Congress doesn't act within the first 100 days of my administration, I will take executive action. So we're going to let her hear her say it herself. But again, the implication here, though, is obviously a step forward from what she was saying about following suit from Australia. And I talked about that, I believe it was 2 episodes ago, or maybe 1 episode ago, where she said that she thought the way Australia handled gun violence was a good route to go. I believe it's to be particular in that. So here's what she says here. She actually takes it up a notch and is explicit with it, saying mandatory gun confiscation is a great idea. And here's her saying it.
Adding to your gun control agenda? Yeah, I think it's a great idea. But I mean, listen, I don't think we lack for great ideas. As I've said many times, we've been having great ideas for decades. The problem is that Congress has not had the courage to act. And that is why, from the beginning, I have said, my agenda includes attempting to get Congress to act, but if they don't within the first 100 days of my administration, I'm going to take executive action. Because what we need is action. Adding to your gun control agenda?
So essentially outright threatening that if Congress doesn't move quick enough by executive action, she will institute some form of mandatory gun confiscation. Now, under what regard, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if there's anything that's actually a premise to this and some reason to confiscate guns outside of maybe just the basic, just confiscate guns because people shouldn't have AR-15s. How dare you? How dare you have magazines of this specific size? Yada, yada. Sock, you can just read the chat or rewind it. I haven't done. I'm done talking to this guy. But it's just, we're moving in a direction that is terrifying, and you pair the language used like this, and you use this language and you think about the possibility that they may steal the election again. You think about what's going on in Venezuela, and we may be on the precipice of. It's just terrifying all around. What did I do to lucid words? He didn't like my segment about, or I guess let me be as objective as I possibly can, because he's gonna keep typing. Let me go up to the actual comment. I fucking so many. Okay, where are you at? Where's the first one? He said that he thinks I need to know that there is a difference between the treatment of terrorists in Israel, including the ones that killed civilians, than how they want to treat the Nakba force, which they should not be harmed, of course, also. All I can take that as is like there's a difference, like there's different value in human beings based on the crimes they may have done. Now, I understand that's a very secular worldview to be like, oh, this prisoner is a much less of life and value than someone who's not. But I just don't view things that way. He also said they should not be harmed, of course, also, which I spoke before I saw that, so fair enough. He said, but I need to know there is a difference, and I reject that. There is no difference. You just can't make random stuff up and say, well, this is why someone should be dehumanized. I don't agree with it in the worldview, particularly from a Christian perspective. He said, I don't lie. I never justified it. Fair. Don't lie. I never justified it. You are censoring because I have different view of you and lie that I justify it. And you wrote it after I wrote, they should not be harmed, of course. Yeah, you went into dialogue. Dishonest of you. You just read one comment, then threatened to block me, which I didn't. I said, just get out of the chat and leave me alone. I mean, close enough, right? That's why I freak out. And there's nothing to freak out over. I just hate when people say a view, then shout me up. I don't spam. I just see you read it, so I reply. Yet you defame me. Like, yes, I'm defaming this random account in my YouTube chat. Okay, fine, I leave. See, you defame me because of a comment. There is an argument. You shout up different view. When the chat is active, and you know, I can tell you're kind of speaking a little bit broken English here. Yeah, you just defame random people who actually have a different opinion than you. When someone gives different view than you, you just start to defame him instead of trying to understand. And the point being is that I reject the premise in which you are trying to suppose there is a difference between these human beings as if one is less of a human than the other based on the actions they made. I rejected it outright once again. But again, I'm not sure if that thought is going to be able to be understood, I guess. Clearly you don't understand. And then Sock joined in. He said, lit 4 comments till I reacted and you bothered by my chat comments as if they mattered. Spam. Man, I wanted to talk, but you just dismissed up front. Then fine. Also distorted what I actually wrote and put words into my mouth. I never said it's good to do, but you were misleading about stuff. But fine, stay in opinion echo chamber. There is no opinion echo chamber here, my friend. Yeah, close enough. Block or get out of chat. And I know a block comes after that. Are you blocked there, brother? And he says, everyone has an opinion. You know what that means, LMAO. We can all love each other. 100%. And here's the thing, like, I'm not gonna block you out of the chat. I am a free speech absolutist. You can sit here and all you want. I just said don't spam my chat when I just don't agree with you, especially when I was an hour away from the topic I was on. Had it been in a good time? Possibly. But you know what? It's not even a big deal. I'm trying to have fun with it. And I just am saying outright, I just reject the premise of your argument. There's nothing else to be had. You don't even have to say anything else. I disagree with you. Done. Ding. Like we're good. Yes, and God will judge. It's not my job to judge. Well, the unfortunate thing is though, because this is what people do get a little bit wrong with that, is you wouldn't just hire some random babysitter, right? This is the common argument with that. Right, you wouldn't hire a random babysitter. What you would do is you would judge to see who would be the best babysitter for your child. And you would do so using a righteous judgment to say this is who should be allowed my child as the protector of them. You would have to make them. The issue, though, becomes you shouldn't convict people of those judgments because who are you to judge is a better way to put it. That's the best way you can honestly describe that. But I'm not going to hit the 2-hour mark. Kind of covered everything I did want to talk about. Sorry that you got in here so late, Sock. I wish you would have been here earlier. We could have had some more argument going on. But no, and this is and really on the initiation of the argument, which you never even answered if he was Jewish or not, is because this is the toxic nature that comes from discussing anything about Israel and Palestine. It goes 0 to 100 in 2 seconds. I understand why, given the foundations and ecclesiastical foundations for everything. These are beliefs that people are willing to die for and do, and so it continues in that format. I am just saying, from a Christian who's entirely unevolved, I deny all of it. There's no argument you can make. You all need to stop doing it. Turn, repent to the true King, Jesus Christ. That's my argument. And with that, it's been a great show. I appreciate everybody for being here. Are you trying to get on my list of babysitters? No, I'm not, Sock. That was actually fun. I appreciated that. I actually haven't had to push back on anybody in chat in like a long time, or maybe if ever, to be honest with you. I was actually just appreciative that I got the chance to be able to stream today. I was lucky enough to be able to do this today and have enough time to organize the outline as well. My goal, though, upcoming, is I would like to do a creator spotlight on Jay Dyer. I would like to do a creator spotlight on Wretched Radio. So those are 2 upcoming that I would like to do spotlights for. And then moving off from that, expect me and Worrell to try once again to get a weekend episode of Jar Openers is the current name that we're running with. And hopefully we can live test and make that run well. So that will be on Saturday, 8 to 10 p.m. unless anything changes. And if it does, I will post about it. I feel like there was something else I was going to say, but I cannot remember. Either way, I appreciate everybody for being here. Thank you all. Christ is King. Have a good rest of your night. Even you, Lucid Words. Have a good night, brother. And everybody take care. Peace out.